first time I ever saw Graham Halliday compete was in Hyrox, Manchester. I was filming the start of the pro men's race and a guy in pink shoes flew past me, way ahead of anyone else. I assume he'd done the classic Hyrox rookie move and come out way too hot, then would quickly drop off. However, Graham continued to lead the race and took a comfortable first place finish. Asking around, I was told that Graham had finished the previous Manchester race about a year ago in 1 hour 10 minutes, so I was immediately interested in how he'd managed such a solid improvement in a little under a year. Even more impressively, Graham followed up his win in Manchester with sub-60 performances at Glasgow and Hanover, and then another at the Hyrox World Championships to take 5th place in that race overall. In this episode of the Hybrid Experiment, I finally catch up with Graham and have the opportunity to ask him not only how he improved his Hyrox time so dramatically, but how other athletes can use his methods of analysing the Hyrox split and come up with a personalised training plan to cut their own times. Okay, so I'm here with Graham Halliday from Elation Fitness Training, who's just proven himself as the 5th best Hyrox athlete in the world after the World Championships. How are you doing, Graham? How's the recovery and how's the off-season?
It's good, going well actually. This kind of off season is a bit different for me because I'm focused on running as opposed to strength training. Unlike other seasons where it's just been strength in the off season, whereas this season's just running. Still strength in there, but focused on running.
Awesome. So we've got you on. It's quite a big topic. So the topic I originally had was improvement, which is just obviously huge because everybody can improve in many ways. But what I kind of specifically wanted to ask you about is how somebody can look at their results in Hyrox and begin to break that down and look at how they improve their time next time round. And obviously you're a great case study on this because do you know what your first ever Hyrox time was?
It was 109 something. 109, I think it was.
Yeah. And so within about just over a year, and what's your fastest now? Like in the 57s, is that right?
57:35 is the fastest in Hanover.
Yeah. So it's like, like a 12-minute improvement. And it's a 12-minute improvement when you were already at a very high level is just massive. And so what I'd like to get out of this interview is if somebody with a time of 110, somewhere around there, like over that, can find out this is how we break down our results and this is how we can make improvements. It might not be 12 minutes, but if they can start to have an idea of how to do it, that'd be great. So I guess just to get us started off, if somebody comes to you now and says, okay, I've just done a Hyrox, I want to get a better time, how would you recommend they start looking at their results and breaking them down to improve next time round?
So for me, what I do is, right, I look at the runs, like every individual run, and I'll look at it and I'll go, like, were they on par with each other? So from like your first run to your last run, give or take, because some courses are maybe like 3.5 laps to start and then 2.5 laps after that. So you just disregard the 3.5 laps and you just go from the 2.5 laps onwards and see how your runs look. And then that would kind of give you an indication of how, if you're actual lacking fitness or if you're lacking maybe running under fatigue. So if you know you're a good runner, but your runs have actually, you can run 8Ks every kilometre under 4 minutes, right? But then you've went to Hyrox and every kilometre is well over 4 minutes, then that's telling you that your fitness is there because you've done it and on track or whatever, you've ran your 8K before. But that's telling you that you're struggling to work under fatigue. So you maybe need to start adding, like incorporating sessions under fatigue. But for me personally, I kind of just had to improve everything as a whole. Like my fitness just wasn't where it had to be. So running was obviously a massive part, but under fatigue was a massive part for my training as well. But once you've got your running, once you've looked at your running, then you can actually look at your splits of your rock zone times, and then you can break it down even further. So if you get to like, let's say after the ski you ran like a 4:15, then after the prowler you're a 5:30, and then you're back to a 4:15. That goes to tell me that you're actually struggling after the prowler. So you need to focus, maybe have a bit more, maybe have like 6% of prowler in running. sort of style of conditioning in your training. But as a whole, if you're at a 110, like you definitely need to improve fitness. If you're a 40-minute 10k runner, I think you've got the potential to sub 60 minutes, at least 62 minutes on your Hyrox.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So you said you're focusing on your running at the moment. Is that what kind of time? Do you know what time your 10k is?
My 10k like is a good level, but at the elite level, I'm probably like the slowest 10k runner there. I'm 36.50 for a 10k, which is actually like a good level for running. But when you look at the other guys and they're saying 33 minutes, 34 minutes, like that's fast, especially for the size and the weights that they can move.
Because I guess for you, for sure, because I've seen your Instagram posts of your squats and things, and just comparing that to what like Rock's Life has posted in the past from surveys, I guess your strength is probably one of the highest, if not, the highest up there. So yeah, I guess for you, it makes sense to work on your running. If somebody, so once people they've realized that, okay, I need to work on my running or I need to work on my stations, how do they go about setting a realistic goal? Because obviously for me, my 10k is about 42 minutes, somewhere around there. So it wouldn't be, if I was to say, okay, I want to get a 36 minute 10k in a month's time, is impossible. So how do people go about setting those like realistic goals?
So what I done was like give yourself time. Like mine was over the course of a full entire year. That's how I broke it down. I went like this first 3 months, I'm going to focus on like strength and endurance. So it was like that was the main focus, just main lifts, some rocks work, and then kind of mostly endurance runs with some track work. So you're still keeping some form of speed in there. And then the next 3 months, which for me is going to be like I'll still keep in endurance workouts, like endurance runs I'm talking about here. So, but rather than doing two of them a week, I'm going to break that down to one, and I'm going to start focusing more on speed. So the closer you get to competition, you want to try and make sure you're moving fast and you're powerful and you're strong enough. So at the start of the season, like the focus should be probably depends on the athlete, depends on the actual athlete. But like if you've got like somebody like me, I like to keep a good level of strength. So I would focus on still keeping my strength at bay, if not try and get it better, as well as trying to focus on getting my lung capacity a lot better for these over the last 3 months. Well, since the Worlds, for 3 months, and then the next 2 months I'm going to focus on more speed and like faster movements, just so you're getting. So hopefully it will have a transfer over when I go into the actual competition mode. That's the plan. So you've built your endurance, you've built your lungs, your base, and now you're transferring it into like speed. And then when it gets to like 6 to 8 weeks out, 8 to 10 weeks out, I'll merge them together, and it should have a good like transfer over to competition race day.
Yeah, so you can definitely tell that you've got like a lot of experience coaching, and I know you went to college or university as well, right? To study
college,
sports and gym training. Yeah, so that's awesome. So you can obviously tell you're putting that to good use on yourself. So I wanted some actionable examples. You've kind of given one on running, but I'll push you to go a little deeper on it if that's okay. So if someone comes to you and says that they want to take about 10 seconds to 20 seconds off each run in their Hyrox, which is obviously a pretty considerable amount, what kind of programming would you give to them?
So you're probably still looking speed. I'd say speed would be more the focus. If it's only like 10 seconds, like you can incorporate, like say you have 3 running sessions, one could be like speed endurance, so like it'd be like longer over the total of the distance, but it could be like shorter bouts, so maybe like 8Ks, and the next one might be like 3Ks worth of speed intervals. And then the next run could be like longer intervals, but you can then incorporate some speed as well. So what I like to do, like see when you've got zone 2, you'll know yourself, because you're doing the plan. But zone 2, so on a Saturday you'll do your long run, and then you'll incorporate like 3 kilometers where you'll go fast, but you can pick whenever you want to go fast in those kilometers. So then that's getting your body used to like moving. You're building endurance still, and then you're teaching your body to move fast.
So that's a funny workout. So Graham's talking about a workout that's it's a 60 to 90 minute long run, and then at any point during that you can pick 3 kilometers worth of 1 kilometer speed intervals. and it messes with your head because you're running and you think like, shall I do one? I'm feeling a little tired, but should I do one now and get it out of the way? and then and then go back to running slow, or should I just, and then, or you can just put them off like towards the end, and then once you get to the end you're like, oh no, I've got to do like 3 kilometers now. So actually I thought that was a really fun way of breaking up a long run, because you're constantly, you're
Mhm.
not even thinking about the long run, you're thinking about these hard intervals you got to do. So yeah, that was actually,
Exactly.
that's a really good fun workout. So next one, so we've covered running. If somebody wants to improve their time on the ergs, which I know is a specialty of yours, I think you was second fastest time on the row, for example. What kind of rowing intervals or rowing progressions would you give to somebody looking to improve on the ergs?
So let's say it's somebody who's got a 2 minute average pace of 1,000 meters on the rower and on the ski erg, right? So I would
Hmm.
really focus on intervals. Like you could have a day where you go intervals and you have a longer day. I think that's quite important to have like the blend of both of them. So you're working on endurance and you're working on speed. But if you want to break it down, let's say you're aiming to get a 150 pace, that's your target. So you could go, say, 40, say roughly you're going to start your program, you start off 8 sets on the ski erg, you're going to be 250 meters worth of distance. So your goal would be to hold a 150 pace. It's like quarter of the distance, right? So if you're holding a 2 minute pace, realistically you should be able to hold like a 150 pace for 250 meters.
Yeah.
If you hold a 2 minute pace for 1,000 meters, that is. So you're roughly only taking 10 seconds off your time for quarter of the distance, 250 meters. So you go like your 8 sets of that, and then for the first week, let's say you take 90 seconds rest, and then as you go on to the second week, keep that in same session, but then you reduce your rest time to 60 seconds. But let's say you can only make four of those sets with a 60 seconds rest, then you can go right. The next 4 sets, I'll go back to 90 seconds, and that's still like a
Yeah.
form of progression. Like, and then week 3, you'd be able to get maybe 5 or 6 of those sets, and like holding the 150 pace for the 250 meters over the 8 sets. Then eventually you've built up to holding 8 sets with a 150 pace, a 250 meters. And then eventually you will be able to,
Awesome.
that will have a transfer over again to actually holding that pace throughout.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you find that the ergs and the runner complement each other quite well, or do you find it very important to work separately on each of them?
It depends on the person, but I like the blend of both actually, but it really just
Hmm.
depends on the individual and where their starting point is.
Yeah.
Like, because if you've got a thin athlete, they might be good on the runs, if that's what you mean. They might be like good at running, but like weaker on the ergs, so they
Hmm.
might need to spend some more time on like the ergs. Whereas if you've got somebody
Yep.
who's kind of in between, I'm good at running and during Hyrox, and I'm stronger on the ergs, then the blend is always good.
Mhm. So we've covered the ergs now. So if people, so we'll cover the stations. So we've got the wobbles and the lunges are quite are the ones that fill most people with dread. So if somebody comes to you and says that they really just struggle on wobbles and lunges, like that's where they lose all their time. Like most of their runs are consistent. They're finishing again, like we'll say 1 hour, 10 minutes. What kind of strategies do you give people to train those wobbles and lunges?
So again, it can depend on the individual, right? So if you're, let's say you're a weaker athlete and you're actually struggling to reach the target, so you could then maybe focus on strengthening up your shoulders, strengthening up your legs. So like barbell thrusters, dumbbell thrusters, but at a lower rep range, you could work on that for a set amount of weeks. But you can always, I like the merge to be fair, right? So I like to merge it. So you could go, day one, I'm going to keep it, rather than wall balls, I'm going to change it to heavy thrusters. Day three, you have that DRS from the wall balls. You go, right, I'm going to go more muscular endurance for the wall balls. So you pick like a 6 or a 9 kilo. I'd always try and aim to train heavier,
Mhm.
like especially when you're in training, because you're never going to that full capacity in training roughly, um, as like you would when you're in Hyrox. But I would say if you're like a weaker athlete, get yourself stronger first, and then start to focus on more muscle endurance as you get closer. And sorry, get yourself stronger first, and then have a blend of muscle endurance within that. And then as you get closer, you can start to focus more on speed and stuff like that with the wall balls as well. But if you're a stronger athlete and you're struggling. So it's quite funny, right? Because I've got two athletes that I'm training right now, right? Ewan Dixon and Johnny Gray. One's just new. Johnny's just new. He's like a bigger guy. He's 90 kilos, right? But his running's really, really good. But his wall balls were I think they were 7 minutes 30 seconds, right? And he's in Glasgow. So he was 7 minutes 30 seconds. And funnily enough, Ewan Dixon's first ever event was in Valencia, I'm sure, and his wall balls were like 7:33. So they've kept me. Ewan's managed to get his down to 4 minutes, 4 minutes 30ish, I'm sure it is. But Johnny's yet to go and do another Hyrox event. But they've got different focuses. So Johnny has to focus more on like his is actually mobility. So he was getting no reps on like no able to hit depth. So we are actually just focused on mobility, making sure like he can actually get low enough for the wall balls to count. But he's hitting the target with ease. Whereas so if we're focused on muscular endurance, he doesn't need any more strength. He's strong enough. He can toss it up like with ease. So his focus is muscular endurance, and Ewan's focus was like heavy barbell thrusters and kind of like, so it would be like 5 to 10 heavy barbell thrusters, and then into like a moderate set of wall balls, 15 to 20 reps. And that's like a good wee cycle to start off with.
Awesome. That's really interesting. Thank you for that. And yourself, you touched on it just then, but one thing I've found really interesting in watching your Instagram, and clearly one of the reasons you're as elite as you are, is you're almost always using heavier wall balls and heavier kettlebells and things like that, right? When you're doing workouts.
Every session.
Yeah. When was the last time you touched a 9 kilo wall ball?
And never. I don't think I've ever trained with a 9 kilo. I usually just use a 14 kilo wall ball.
Yeah.
Sometimes like if I'm low hitting, like it depends on the workout, but like if I'm going for like maybe 50 reps and it's like sets upon sets of that, like three to 5 sets, then I'll maybe use like a 10 kilo. So we only have like 6s, 7s, 9s, and then 14s. Oh, sorry, 10s and then 14s. So we don't have 9s.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, so that it's cool. I just thought that was something really interesting and something that people might want to think about. Maybe not everyone's elite level such as yourself, but it might be something if people are finding that they're doing wall balls and they're getting good at them, then one way, rather than just doing more, you can increase the weight on that. So that's definitely a good tactic, I think. So yeah, the one thing I wanted to ask you about as well is you've just been talking about a few examples of people, but does anyone at your gym or people you've been training come to mind where you've seen a really big improvement in them? I was hoping to inspire some listeners.
Well, most people at our gym, like, so my girlfriend Hannah, she went from like a 128 to I think she was like a 113 or a 114 the last event, which is massive. That's like it's like 15 minutes roughly in time. And then Ewan Dixon, he's trained with us for quite a while now. He went from like he's similar to me, 109 to a 101. And we travelled to Hanover together there, and that's where he got his 101. And then there was Kevin, he's a PT at our gym as well. He went from a 126 to a 107, which is massive.
Yeah.
For him.
Yeah. I think that is one thing just for people to really keep in mind, is that there are, maybe not everyone's improvement will be as massive as the guys at your gym, but people do improve, right? Like it's, if you put in the work and like you do, your training's clearly very intelligent and you clearly like statistically done. And I think that looks like the key. Like if you can get the right training in, you will improve. And I think that's the awesome thing about Hyrox. It's such a science-based sport almost, like you can break it down, you can train correctly and you will get better. So I love hearing about people's improvements because it always inspires me.
Same.
So the next question I've got for you really is about how you yourself improved. You went from almost a 110 down to 57 in the 57 minutes. So what was it that you yourself, like, can you talk us through the process from when you did your first race? Did you decide then, like, I'm gonna be good at this sport, and how you began that process of getting to where you are and how difficult it's been?
So when I did my first race, a boy called Max Baggio, he was actually in my heat. I don't know if you've heard of him. It's from March on Gym. London, I'm sure, right? And they're quite big and they're well known. So I was like, so I done the race, and I think I was like 50 seconds off him, and everybody looks at him like he's an athlete. The boy's an athlete. You look at him, you can just tell he's an athlete. So that kind of motivated me to then go, I could actually probably go quite far in this sport. But I went and trained, like, I don't know if you know this, I went and trained like kind of more CrossFit style for a while, and I didn't really run as much. And I came back and I went to London, and I ended up with a worse time. I think I got like a 112. And then after that,
Okay.
that gave me a slice of humble pie. So I thought, right, I need to focus on my runs. So I just went back and actually just focused on running. It was mostly running under fatigue that I focused on, because I just wanted to run a fast K, do something, get fatigue, run a fast K. And I done one long run a week. And then this time round, I'm kind of going for 2 long runs. I've got about 5 or 6 running sessions as opposed to 3. So I'm hoping to kind of bring it up through that again. But it was mostly running. But before that, I did actually have a focus on like an upper body, lower body, upper body, lower body. But as I was doing more Hyrox races, I was realizing like that probably wasn't the best split. So I started adapting to like full bodies like every day, and I just noticed my times just went and got better, really, like massively. As soon as I started focusing on full bodies, it kind of like made it like Hyrox focus. So like on the Monday, you know, it's like pure strength focus, and as we get closer, it'll be like strength and more speed as opposed to strength and hypertrophy right now. And then Tuesday you've got your rock session, and then you've got your run, and it kind of goes on like that. You've got your partner workout, because you're always getting different stimulus every single workout, but over the course of weeks it's like the same, so you can progress in it.
One thing that I found really interesting with your training is that you said about doing too much CrossFit, but you actually still have quite a lot of movements that people look at and go, "Oh, that's CrossFit." So you still have a lot of cleans, you still have a lot of snatches, muscle ups make an appearance from time to time. So why do you think it's important to keep those in?
Like, see, if you're like me, you like to have a bit of fun with your training as well. Like every session, when you look at the program, you go, right, it's tough. So you need to like incorporate something that you actually enjoy. Whereas if you're like, I enjoy the training as a whole, but sometimes you're just killing yourself. It's good to try new things, like say like handstands and muscle ups and stuff like that. It's good to practice them just for something different. Even if you're not going to be a CrossFitter, for me, it's just I enjoy it.
I do as well. Like I really miss it if I'm not doing muscle ups and things. Like I like handstand push ups, stuff like that, like handstand walking. Like those things are just fun, right? Like if you can't do those, you don't have party tricks to do anymore either. So it's good to have them. So sorry, I pulled you away. If you were just talking about your running. So you basically went from not doing much running when you're doing CrossFit to running a lot. Like what's your volume been like over the past 2 years? Like what have you experimented with, and what have you found works? What was too much? What was too little?
I find it anywhere between like 40, I know it's a big number here, right? Between like 40 and maybe like 70k is quite enough, like quite like a good number. And plus for the everyday person, like you can get 40k's in a week, like for your training. If you want to be good in Hyrox, you can get 40 kilometers in per week. It's 10k's really, and it doesn't need to be split up like that. It wouldn't be split up like that, but roughly I'll say it right now. I'll probably be running close to 80 plus. I'd say. I'll need to look at it because this is only my second week.
Do you find the running takes away, if you tip it over, it takes away from your other stations? So I'm guessing that you're balancing that with your other stations.
I think so. I think like for the prowler push and pull, it can take a bit away from that. See if you end up losing like too much weight, because usually I sit between like comfortably 85 to 90 kilos, but recently I've been closer to like sub 85 kilos. Like obviously mass moves mass, so if you're if you're 85 plus, you're going to move the prowlers a lot easier, or you should, compared to somebody who's a bit lighter. But I notice a bit of a difference if my running's too high in volume when I go back to the prowlers. Like it just feels heavier when you're in competition if you've been running too much. So same with the ski erg. So I notice like if I'm running too much like distance, I notice like I don't get enough power on the ski. Like
Mm.
I lost a bit of power. That's what I felt like before the Worlds. I lost a bit of power, even because I was trying to focus on running there as well. I ended up placing 10th overall in my runs. But
Mm.
I think like, if you go for too much running close to race time, then you can lose a bit of power, and that's something you don't want to lose. And I was wanting to touch on that as well. Like, see how you see a lot of like pages that will post like the workouts and they're good and stuff like that, but it's a lot of endurance. Whereas nobody actually says like you actually need to have a good bit of a level of strength, a good bit of speed, and a good bit of like power, and they transfer over into making you like a better athlete. That's what I believe anyway. If you're fast, you're strong, and then you actually get fitter, you probably get a better chance than somebody who's just a good runner. Much better chance.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I think like you say as well, like the mass is important. Like if you look at all the world records in the like the ski erg, for example, is Eddie Hall's brother, isn't it? Who holds it? Who's just a massive guy. So it's,
Definitely.
it's yeah, the size has got and strength has got to be a big part of it. So um I've asked you mostly about the physical stuff that you've gone through and how important it is to be physically strong and fast. I just wanted to ask you a bit about the mental sides of achieving your fitness goals. So I don't. Do you is mindset something you think much about, spend much time on?
I'd say it's probably one of the biggest things. Like for every athlete, for every competitor, like that should be your main thing because I know like firsthand that I've got people that I coach and I know they're fitter. But they've done Hyrox, right? They've done Hyrox, and I know they can get better times than that. And I know when I'm looking at them when they're performing through Hyrox, I just know their heads kind of went at something. Like
Mm.
we spoke just before this about you and the Prowler pool, was it, at Rotterdam,
Yeah,
and just
yeah,
your head went.
yeah.
So like it is a mind game, especially Hyrox. Like when you get to the end of Hyrox and you go, I've got 100 Wobbles, and you've got the judge there in your ear going 1, 2, you just counting like that's a mind game. But as a
Yeah.
whole, like you've got to be like headstrong because like when you need to train that hard, like sorry, when you look at the other guys and you've not got anybody in that kind of level run about you, you have to go in by yourself and kind of find like your inner self and go right. This is what I need to go for because that's what these guys are going for.
Hmm.
So like
Hmm.
here, like there's nobody else in Scotland that's in the elite 15. So I'm in my own head and I'm going right. I need to go hard. Like I'm constant in my head just thinking like this is what I need to do. But at the same time, you don't want that to be detrimental to your training either because like if you're the sort of person that just always wants to train sort of thing, like and you're not taking rest days, if you're not recovering enough, like if your brain's just constantly like, you need to do it, you need to do it. If you're not getting enough recovery, then it's gonna make a negative impact to your training as well. If you get
Hmm.
me.
Hmm. Yeah, because I think that's one of the problems with. I mean, Hyrox is pretty bad for it, but CrossFit is even worse, where there's so much stuff, and you want to get better at every single thing. Like you want to get better at snatches, cleans, deadlifts, squat, hands down, push-ups, muscle, like all this stuff that it's so easy just to never take a rest day. And I think that
Exactly.
Hyrox is very similar in that you can trick yourself into being like, oh, just go for another easy run, and you're just training every single day and never getting a rest. So one thing I noticed with your programming is that you program 2 rest days for people, which and actually with your programming, I think people need it as well. So
It's
do you
definitely needed.
yourself take? Yeah, yeah. Do you yourself take two rest days?
Every Thursday,
Yeah,
every Sunday. Every
yeah,
Thursday, every
yeah.
Sunday, and then we will deload as well. So I'll always incorporate a deload. But for people who are on the app and stuff like that, I'll put up like if you're not ready to deload, then you can push on with these sessions or whatever. But I think every
Hmm.
45 weeks you should probably deload. Just
Yep,
depends on the
yep.
person and how intense you're
Mm,
training as well. So if you've got somebody that's not training
mm.
that hard, then what's the point in deloading?
Yeah, yeah. And so going back to the mindset, is that something that came quite naturally? Like you seem quite a chilled out guy. You seem like someone who it would be quite hard to stress out. Do you is the mindset side of racing something that's come quite naturally to you? Like you're not naturally a nervous person, or is it something that you have had to work on?
Um, I don't know. Like, see, when like this is what I spoke about on another podcast. I was like, when I'm outside a Hyrox, like the event, I end up like more nervous then, and then see when I actually get in to this, like in the centre or on the start line, look at my heart rate and it's actually lower. So I think it does come quite naturally that I just kind of zone in or zone out, whatever way you want to look at it.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I guess it.
mhm.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, right? Because I think before I know you'd done bodybuilding competitions before, but you didn't have the same kind of like running background that many people have or anything. Did you have do you have any like sports experience that exposed you to kind of pressure or anything? Or
Nah, not really. To be honest, this was probably the first. So over the last 3 years, I've started kind of competing in different things.
saying that though, bodybuilding's pretty like it's pretty nerve wracking, I imagine, right? Going on stage in just like your boxer shorts and stuff and posing. So
It can be. That was short lived.
yeah, yeah. The Elation Fitness that you run, how important has it been to have like this group of people around you that are really interested in Hyrox? Because I guess, sorry, just before I get into that, how long has Elation Fitness been running for now?
Um, well, gym's been open for 4 years. Elation Fitness has been running for 8 to 9 years, roughly.
And how long have you been coaching there?
I've been
The whole
coaching
time,
for 10 years. 10 years, full
10 years.
time.
So, so I guess the Hyrox stuff in the context of the gym is actually quite new. So what's
Mhm.
it been like switching over to like all these members seeing you do Hyrox, and then have they been keen to follow you? Have some of them been keen to keep doing what you were doing? Like what was it you were doing before Hyrox became the main focus?
So it was kind of like a bit of functional. It was like CrossFit functional bodybuilding, you can kind of call it.
Hmm.
But it was never like long distance stuff. It was like short, sharp stuff. So it's probably closer to CrossFit than anything else. But the
Yeah.
transfer over has been pretty good because like I think we've had over 60 people competing in Hyrox now, and there's just a good buzz. See, when there's a competition or a race coming up for Hyrox, everybody's just dead excited. So
Yeah,
it's been a
yeah.
good switch, and it was the right move.
That's awesome. And so yeah, that was the thing I was going to ask you really is the I think how much has it helped to have like this community and kind of group of athletes training alongside you? Like do you do sessions with other people and has it helped you to have that environment?
So every morning, me, Hannah, Michael, and Dom. This is PTs at the gym, right? We all train together every morning, and then
Mhm.
every so often, like Matt or Kev will jump in. But Matt follows his own plan. Um, but we still kind of train. We all bounce off each other, sort of thing. So it's good to have that environment where everybody's just pushing to be better. And I think you need that
Mhm.
because, like, even though if you're the best there, then what we do is like we'll split up and maybe like if let somebody go first and then you'll be the one trying to catch them. Do you know what I mean? So if there's like a 400 meter run,
Yeah.
let's say, somebody will get like 50 meter head start. But at the same time, like in the gym, I'm not the best at everything. Like I'm actually slower at a short distance. So it's always like a joke in the gym. Like over a 200 meter distance, like people will beat me. Most of the PTs in the gym will beat me over 200 meters. But over like a
Mhm. Mhm.
K, then I'll run fast.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's
So
something
they'll
that's
just
come.
film it and say beating Graham again.
That
Beating the
actually
yeah,
happened. It was on my Instagram, I'm sure, a couple of months ago. No, sorry, it was
yeah.
last year. It was last year, last summer.
I'd definitely be the person doing that. So yeah, I get. I guess just to finish us off, if somebody is watching this and they just want to be better at Hyrox, they really are committed to this sport. What would be the advice that you'd give them to improve over the next 6 months, year, 2 years? Like, what would you say is the key to getting better at this sport?
Just look at where you need to improve. Firstly, is it like do you need to have a carryover of strength, or do you need to focus on running? Do you need to focus on under fatigue? Do you need to focus on just bettering your lung capacity? Figure out what you need to actually focus on. It doesn't need to be one thing. There can be many things there, like because you can always get better on every single station in Hyrox. But what I would say is just be very consistent. Um, be smart with your training. Like recovery is a massive deal for me. And I've only really probably took recovery serious over the last 2 years. But I'd say take your recovery very serious, like your nutrition, your water. Like I like going for saunas 4 times a week minimum, cold showers, stuff like that. Stretch, try and be more mobile. The older you get, the more you're going to feel it. Like I'm only 29, but like I have realised over the last 2 years, recovery is probably the biggest thing, to actually getting better.
Mhm.
Like for Valencia last year, I'll just give you a quick example right before we go. Valencia last year,
Yep.
I got a 102.54, I think, and I was training like 15 times, 16 times a week, for hours, like over an hour almost every single session. Um, and then I actually reduced that, moving into Glasgow and Manchester, and that's where I took like 10 minutes off my time. 4 minutes off my time. So I reduced my sessions and focused more on recovery, and I actually got a better time. So that would be one of the main points. Focus on recovery. Make sure you're training hard enough. Um, like don't just miss a day because you feel like missing a day. Just consistency, recovery, and just stick with it. That's my biggest tip.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think one thing that Hunter McIntyre was saying on one of his, I think it was on his podcast, might be in one of his YouTube videos the other week, that made me think was that to get your body to adapt, you need to, like, when it comes to like strength and power, you need to like really push it to like a really, really high level. And he was saying that if you're not recovering, you're kind of only allowing yourself to push to like 90%. And so you can't reach that level that your body will want to adapt to. And so that definitely opened my eyes a little, because I never really thought that. I'm definitely the kind of person who will train too often. Like I just want to train all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like even today, so today's a rest day. I'm like, maybe there's something I could do to get better. But like you say, like actually your body needs the recovery. So I do think that's a really valuable tip, and it's one that I think there's two types of people, right? Some people who find it really, really hard not to train, and then there's some people who find it really hard to train. And most people in this space, like CrossFit or Hyrox, are the people who find it hard not to train, but sometimes we have to. so,
Exactly.
so yeah, and yeah, before I let you go, I'd just like to say you've opened up Elation Fitness to the wider Hyrox community. So now, if people are interested, they can pretty much follow what you're doing. I was wondering if you could just tell listeners a bit about it, how they what it is you're actually doing, how they can get involved, and how to find more information about you in the gym.
Uh-huh. So at the gym, what we offer is group coaching only and classes. So group coaching or classes even. So you can come to the gym, and you get your 2 group sessions per week and access to unlimited classes. Or you can just join our class only membership, which will give you access to obviously unlimited classes. And another way you can get in contact is, if you don't stay in Glasgow, is you can join us online, which we offer Hyrox Prep, and that's basically you'll have 2 sessions, Elite Hyrox, which doesn't have to be for elite people, it's just for people who have more time to train, say 90 minutes per session roughly. And we have everyday Hyrox as well, and that runs 6 days a week for people who can train 6 days. And that's basically for people who want to improve their Hyrox times and try and get a PB. That's what we focus on.
Yep.
You can join us. You just contact me. You can go on my Instagram page. It's Elation Fitness Training. If you go on the link in my bio, you'll see a Hyrox Prep. Fill out the form, and then we'll be in touch from there. Easy as that.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. I hope that people watch this, and we'll all be getting 57-minute times within the next year, just like you.
Hopefully.
So yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. I'll put all your details in the description as well.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.